In this technique, I will explain how you can send a person into the future. So, what do we send a person into the future for? Typically, when working with a therapist, a person is solving some sort of problem of his or her own and sending him into the future. Here we have some problem, some issue. In a trance, we send a person into the future to find out how the problem has already been solved. So we go there with a question. How will it be resolved? Here, in the future, a person sees that it has already been solved, that this issue has already been resolved, the situation has been resolved, and he takes the answer to himself from here. Let's look at the basic techniques and methods we will use to send a person into the future. It's actually quite a pleasant trance. If you're solving business problems, if you're solving financial problems. As a rule, this is pleasant because the person sees himself or herself as having already solved the financial issue in the future. And he's pretty comfortable here. Another question is that if there are some traumatic relationships traumatizing the psyche at the moment, and we understand that they are really difficult, we, sending a person to the future, can face the fact that there will be some separation or some other psychological load there in the future. That is, if a person continues in the same way, he will get a negative result. And sending a person into the future, they will see it, realize it. On the one hand, it's a very good thing when he sees where this is going. His actions will follow immediately. That is, we will provoke him into action, that life needs to change now before it gets to that bad point. So you have to be careful with the future in such a technique. To some it will be a pleasant experience and to others not so much. But either way it will be productive. If it's a pleasant event, the person makes a judgment from there as to how they achieved it. If it's unpleasant, he makes a judgment that he needs to do something differently in his life from now on, so that he doesn't come to that point. How do we induce this trance? 1. It's a routine homing. When we send a man into the future, I recommend using methods such as lifting. So you're climbing up the stairs. Let's say, if it's a bill, you want to put a person in a trance with a bill. 1 step. You're climbing higher and higher. 2nd step. And so we count to 10. In other words, we are pushing people forward, into the future. You can send him into a trance by flying, for example. Unless you probably don't know he has that kind of battle height phobia. With balloons, yes, and you hold balloons of different colors in your hand, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they lift you up in the air higher and higher and higher. That is, we induce trance by such elevations of a person to somewhere, anywhere. It will contribute to him going into the future. Next. How I want you to. There are 2 solutions to this situation. The first is to send the person into a pleasant memory. It's the easiest thing to do. Therapist doesn't even require much imagination. It's a nice memory. The most affordable remedy of all time. When you don't know what to do, send the man into pleasant memories. There are a lot of resources hidden here and a lot of challenges being met. And the second way is with some sort of time machine. Some kind of time machine. It could be fictional or it could be real. For example, if a person is a driver and has their own car, the easiest metaphor for creating a time machine would be including the derivation of guidance, going into the second block. It is already the trance itself, as here he is, for example, going somewhere on the road, in the mountains, climbing higher and higher. And further he stops, for example, somewhere to get some fresh air. The car is no longer as simple as it seems. And that this car has become a time machine. And it has a special button that you have to sit down and find. Here's a person sits down, you give them time, give them the task of finding that button on their panel. When he finds it, I usually ask for feedback with a nod of the head or a motion of the hand that he did. And the next thing you know, you're using a time machine to send a man into the future. Also here, when we send him somewhere in a time machine, we have to give him directions to where exactly. That is, if we have an unsolved problem, and he assumes that in 5 years it will already be solved, we will send him by time machine to the place where it has already been solved, i.e. in 5 years. We communicate that to him, that he's carpooling there to the future 5 years from now where he's already achieved that result. Next, with a pleasant memory. How we work. Sending. For example, a person has pleasant memories, he is on the seashore, everything is good for him, there are close and dear people near him. How can we use this to move it into the future? We must in this pleasant memory, when it lingers, savor it, take it away. That is, usually at this point I ask the person to tell me where he is, what he sees, in order not to point a finger at the sky, not to guess, but to know for sure that if it is a forest, there may be some path there that he did not suspect before. If it's a city, there might be a turn off to that street he hadn't noticed before. So in any case from his memory that is available to him, we are helping him to get on that new path, to find it. Did you know that there's one street right there in your favorite place, that you didn't know about? I suggest you find her and follow this path. That is, we have to take him away from the pleasant, from the real memory, take him by any available method to the green meadow, for example. And in this green clearing, we have a time machine. Some may have it big, heavy, iron. For some, it may resemble an alien ship. Some may have it. Well, I mean, usually in the Ericksonian hypothesis. When we work there, it's not customary to communicate with your patient, and the therapist starts guessing to throw around ideas of what she might look like. I'm taking a shortcut here. When I say that there's a time machine in the green meadow, quickly I tell you that it can be big, it can be small, it can be wooden, it can be iron. After a few of these introductions, I ask a question. Tell me what you see. And the person himself describes what this time machine is like. Okay, we listen to him. Next we also, as here, suggest that he find the button that moves us through time. And there's also a scale that has numbers on it. These numbers represent the years. If we need 5 years ahead, and we have year 23 today, we find year 23 on the scale and crank it up to 28. Next we ask, did it work? Yeah, I got it, okay. So we push that magic button when we're ready to go to that future where the outcome is already obvious, where we've already solved this issue. The man presses the button, and either the car starts to climb. So we want to deepen the trance. We lift the person again, and the car rises. It goes higher and higher, and flies down lakes, mountains, the plains, and we send him somewhere even deeper. You can do it immediately at the press of a button. You'll be in 5 years. Tell me what you see, what's around you. And that's how we see how the situation was resolved, or what his actions that he's now doing and worrying about have led to. How to get a man back. When he's been there, seen his future, and you realize that's enough. Then we send him there, we bring him back from there. So, if we have him flying around on an alien ship, that means he gets back on the alien ship, clicks in there, adjusts the day back to the year 23, presses the button, and departs. Already, if we send it out, it takes off for us, then when we bring it back, it goes down. So it flies back over the mountains, the plains. And his time machine starts to gently descend. It goes down and down and down. And we tell him, we take him all the way to this green meadow. Next, we're off the clearing to bring him back down the path to a pleasant memory. We remember what was there. So we're throwing some metaphors at him. And in the same way, if we were loading it with steps up, then we'll be bringing it out with steps down. If we counted from 1 to 10, here we will count from 10 to 1 in the other direction. And when we count to 1, we're in the here and now. And it's the same with the car. If we were traveling somewhere in our car, then we get in the car, correct the date, press the button, drive these mountain roads back to the pointing station. And from here we return to the here and now. That's how we have this technique going on. Next, what to do with this information. Either you solved it in the moment, that is, the person saw the solution, wow, I get it. Yeah, like this. Usually, if he's successful here he's not successful here, and here he is successful here, yes, then we offer to meet him here in this future with a teacher. The teacher can be any character that comes to him there in trance, yes, it can be an animal, it can be a natural phenomenon or a human being. Familiar or unfamiliar. And we ask that person, let's say, how did I accomplish this? Tell me what happened. Or we turn on some, you can from a social media feed somewhere on the computer that he scrolls through it, and sees how he lived those 5 years and what he did, and how he came to that result. Or turn on his TV in the future to turn on that episode of that year in his life, so he can see what happened, that he achieved that result. I mean, we're helping him find it here. Well, accordingly, either a teacher tells him what happened, or a close person. And with that decision we come back. If a person in the future has seen that everything is bad, he, for example, has not parted with this person, with whom he should, and his life has gone downhill, he does not respect himself, he cries there every day, everything is bad, then with this information, we just return him gently, here and now, in order to have a human, just peaceful heart-to-heart talk. So he saw where this was going. That if a person continues to tolerate some violence or some inadequate attitude towards himself, he continues to tolerate it all, gets such a result. And here just an ordinary human conversation with a psychotherapist, of course, if there can be such a conversation, allows him to realize that it is not necessary to do so. Something needs to change right now, because we've already seen the results.